Good day, everyone. Did you know that disengaged leaders can actually neutralize effective HR practices, even good pay and benefits, positive company mission, and altruistic practices? All of that can be neutralized by a disengaged leader. So, today on the Coffee with Rhonda show, we're going to talk about the dangers of disconnected leadership. So, if you're ready, let's learn to lead above the grind. All right, great day, everyone. So glad to have you all here. We're ready for another fantastic and wonderful conversation. Let me bring our panel up today, and we're going to have a fantastic conversation. So, before we get started, I want to say hello to everyone. Thank you so much for being here, and welcome to the Coffee with Rhonda show. We are your cup full of inspiration, revelation, and wit for today's savvy leaders. This is episode 52, and our power hour today is on the danger of disconnected leaders. So, really quickly, before we get started, you all know how this goes. Tell us where you're watching from, and don't forget to tell us what's in your cup. Don't forget to comment. Your comments really do drive and power our conversation. And I have a big ask. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on replay, take a moment to like and share the video. Someone else out there wants to hear it. Wherever you're watching from, particularly YouTube and even on Facebook, hit the subscribe button. Now, my name is Rhonda Y. Williams. I'm your host for the show, and I'm known as an R Soul or a recovering stressed out leader. Today, I am an elite leadership coach helping executives and entrepreneurs decide it's time to stop the madness, reduce stress, and live a more successful and well-balanced life. So, let me just share with you what's in my cup today. I have hazelnut coffee, and I have a dash of ginger in the coffee as well. So that's me. Let's go to our co-host Mireille Toulekima. Mireille, the greatest engineer. All right, I'm gonna get it right today. Good evening. Good night to you.
Yeah, it's good night, and in 1 hour it's gonna be Sunday, so it's always good to finish the day with the coffee of coffee with Rhonda. My name is Mireille Toulekima, based in Perth in Australia. I am the greatness engineer, so I have an engineering background, but I'm talking about engineering greatness into people's lives. So that's my mission, to make sure that people understand that they are not limited at all, and they can step into their greatness and start to do beautiful things in the world. So that's me. I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm also the CEO of the MT Energy Resources. And I'm happy to be back here every Sunday. And today I'm drinking, so I have turmeric tea with some lemon. So that's really good.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, Mireille. And we're really excited to have our guest for today. Faust, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you, and then tell us what's in your cup.
My name is Faust Ruggiero. I'm the author of the Fix Yourself Handbook. I've been counseling for about 4 decades now. Individual, family, marriage, all those kinds of things. Wrote the book to try to move forward a program called the Process Way of Life, which I developed and have been teaching for about 20 years now. moving this forward. We're doing a lot of promotions, there's a radio show I'm doing now. So I'm getting ready to turn the book into an audio book. So it's a busy time in my life. And I'm also keeping the counseling going because, like both of you, I have this passion for getting people to the next level in their life. So it's a busy time. In my cup, I'm on the tea side also. I'm an herbal tea guy. So I've got some spearmint tea with rose hips and lemon today.
Ooh, rose hips. Awesome. I don't think we've heard that one on the show, Mireille.
No,
I like to be
never.
different.
That's so good.
No, that's great. It's wonderful. And it's so great to have you on the show. We have our other co-host coming in. Ms. Roz, we're going to go ahead and bring you in. Hello. Good. Great day to you. Perfect opportunity. We're doing our introduction. So tell us who you are as if they don't know and what's in your cup.
Hi, you guys. I'm Rhonda Show. I'm so sorry. You know, we always have some type of technical difficulty, but all is well. You know, we keep pushing forward. I'm Roz Jones, for those of you who don't know, and I don't know why you don't know by now. But anyway, I'm the CEO and owner of Jacksonville's Best Caregivers, where we expand the life of your loved one. And why do I do what I do? Is to help the caregiver on that journey to relieve that SOS, which is stress, being overwhelmed, and providing safety and security for your loved one. When you can't do it all, give us a call. And in my cup, I have my regular, my peppermint tea, the honey, and the lemon.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, everyone. So let's say good morning out there, moms out there. Good morning, Mom. Looking forward to another great show. Cran apple juice in my every week you have something fun and delicious in your cup. So thank you so much. Nima from Philadelphia says, I'm sipping black tea with a splash of rum. Oh, okay. So you and I need to talk after this. We need to talk about that a little bit. And then we have Regina out there, and she has coffee in her cup in San Antonio, Texas. Good morning, everyone. So let's go ahead and dive into our conversation today, because we're going to talk about disconnected leaders and the danger of disconnected leaders, right? Because I do believe that there is a danger in this. I want to start by sharing some statistics around this and what I found to be pretty interesting. As you think about disconnected leaders and what happens when you have a disconnected leaders, which is that you then have a disengaged team or staff or people around you. But there's a danger and a cost to that. So let me share this. I'm going to share my screen with you and share with you a few of the statistics around disconnected leaders. Make sure I'm sharing the right one. All right, there we go. So for those of you particularly listening in and not really watching the screen, the statistics say, here are 5 stats on the danger of disengagement. Disengagement costs around $450 billion annually. That's a billions with a B, right? Is the cost of disengagement as it has been measured. 67% of employees are not engaged or are actively disengaged. 75% of employees, right? I got 2 ofs here. 75% of employees quit because of their boss, and 85% of employees are actively looking or open to exploring new opportunities. 85%. Now, 89% of employers believe employees leave for more money, when only 12% do. So, some interesting numbers and statistics around the dangers of having a disengaged workforce. So let's talk about that a little bit. And I want to first just start by getting your reaction to any of those. Roz, let's start with you. Anything in particular resonate with you from that list?
Oh, I can believe that they're disengaged because of all of this technology. You have so much stuff pulling on you. You have, not only do you have your, you have to take care of your family, you have to take care of your job. Now you have these notifications and alerts going bleep, 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 bleep all day long. And you feel like you have to answer them, but you don't. You don't, but it's so easy to be pulled off of focus, to be deterred, short-term span. People don't even want to read books and magazines. Everything has to be done within 30 seconds, within 2 minutes. They even tell you, your engagement on Facebook is less than 2 minutes. IG, all of this. But we control what comes in and goes out. We control that. So our disengagement is partly our fault because we don't set boundaries. And we talk about this all the time. We don't set boundaries. Turn off those notifications. I tell you guys every day I take a nap. I turn it all off. I close this down and I close my eyes and I shut it down. And we have to do that. So disengagement is partly our fault because we have allowed social media come in and to take over our lives instead of us. Social media is controlling us instead of us controlling social media. And I'm done speaking.
Let me unmute. No, thank you. I think that's really important that there are a lot of factors now that are all competing for our attention. And it really is hard to figure out where that attention really needs to go. So, Faust, I'm going to come to you last on this. Mireille, what did you see on that list?
I've seen the cost of not engaging with people, and also, the communication that is not effective at all, because I think the disengagement is about communication. So we don't actually know how to communicate, and a lot of leaders think that they know how to communicate, but we don't know the basic, which is listening first. Take the time to listen. And not just listen to what we want to listen, but listen to people we are talking to, and then engage into, a dialogue and understand really what they need and how we can help them as leader. And it's difficult, like what Rose was saying. It's difficult to do that now because we always, being a leader is now getting busy, and we get busy with all kind of things, and we forget about taking time to sit down and to talk and to understand, how we come across, to understand what are the key problems that we need to pay attention to, and not just, have the feeling that, communicating or being an effective leader is about movement, is about, speed, is about, getting noticed. And I think that's where the problem lies, is really, have this opportunity to understand what it is for us, communication right now in this very disrupted, society and environment. What is communication, and how do we communicate effectively to really engage people and help people through, anything that needs, our attention.
Mm-hmm. No. So we have, Roz, you mentioned sort of the intrusiveness of all of the distractions. And then Mireille, you're really speaking to the communication and taking the time to engage with your people in that way. And the cost of it, right? $450 billion is a lot of money. Faust, what do you see? And what did you see on that list that stood out for you?
You know what? Rhonda, the last piece on there where it said the employer thinks that they're leaving for money and they're not, that's just shows me how far apart the communication system is. Because, and I believe that statistic, I go in and do employee assistance programs, small businesses to large corporations, and what I always see is this big gap between the upper management and the lower. And the upper management people will consistently bring in new programs that are somehow supposed to make everything better. And I will say to them, did you include lower management and line people in the information process? Because they're going to be the ones that have to implement your programs. And the answer is almost universally, no, we hired the outside consultants. And I say, well, they're not in that factory. They're not on the floor doing things. They're not discussing what happens when things break down. Those people that you're not talking to hold all that viable information that you're going to need to move ahead. The other thing is back to that technology thing. Not only are we distracted by it, we're using it to communicate. Instead of going to a person and talking to them, we're texting in the same building. You know, I was at one company, a large. If I mention a company, you know the name. And I said, this person was texting the other person about something at the meeting, who was in the next office, and both office doors were open. I said, I don't understand. You want to talk about a disconnect? You know, if you're going to connect with people, go and talk to them. If you're going to implement something, you know, the strategy it has to be delivered by those people. So it's only going to be as strong as the people who are going to actually implement the program. So I would assume it makes sense to talk to them, A, for morale purposes, B, for communication, and 3, for efficiency.
No, that's really powerful. I was thinking about that when you brought up the texting. The first thing that came to my mind is, I bet they were like right in the next room from each other, because gosh, we just do that, right? Technology is so easy, but it's so much less personal, right? You don't really get the same feeling. So Michael's joining us this morning. Michael's checking in from St. Petersburg, Russia. Good morning, Michael. Disengagement happens because the leader has forgotten their job is to take care of the people, while people take care of the processes. Excellent point. Many leaders focus on the task, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more, Michael. Maria's also out there. Good morning, Maria. It's great to see you tuning in from the Netherlands. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. And then Nima said, I agree with the comments of the group, but I believe the pandemic has made it much worse and easier to disengage with people. So I want to ask the panel that, what role do you think the pandemic has played in all of this? Disengagement, disconnectedness, focusing on stuff instead of focusing on people. Ross, let's come to you first. Do you think the pandemic has played a role in this?
The pandemic has played a role, but you know what? The pandemic has also, for some people, made us understand the importance of family and communication. Because for instance, me in healthcare, communication was totally cut off. Physical communication was cut off for a lot of elderly people. So it has put a major impact on them mentally and physically, because, as I've always said, that those facilities were not made for isolation. They were made for community, and their community was cut. I mean, the lifeline was literally cut off. They couldn't eat together. They couldn't walk up and down the halls. They couldn't go outside. They could do nothing. And so a lot of them either died or went into depression, or, now aren't able to walk because we limited them to their apartments. Physical activity. So when you limit physical activity, mental activity, all this activity that stimulates us, yeah, it caused a problem. COVID caused a huge problem, not only for people in the assisted living, but even for children that go to school that are so used to being around other people. What has it done to our children? How has the suicide rate gone up?
Right.
There's a lot of things that COVID impacted that people didn't think about. They didn't think about. I'm done.
Yeah. And now we're thinking about them, right? To your point, COVID has brought a different level of awareness for us in some of this. And Mireille, what about you? What do you see as the impact the pandemic had on a disengaged and disconnected leader?
I think the pandemic has worsened things, because especially in a lot of settings where there were already dysfunction, like in housing where there were domestic violence or those kind of problems, it actually amplified a lot of things. Where when the people in those households could connect outside with real people, they could cope with what was happening. But now they have no recourse. They have to to really find a way, and they end up into depression, or it becomes really physical. And even for children, Rose mentioned, children, for them, they need to move, they need to be in contact with people, they need to talk, they need to, they need hugs, they need, to smile, but, through all this pandemic, it was impossible for them.
Right.
Impossible for them. I still remember, when all of this started in my house, everybody was just, the kids were having, their school through the internet, and the parents, we were working through the internet, but we were not communicating at all anymore, because, for us, the most important thing was this computer. So we were completely disconnected until we just realized, if we are in this house, let's all disconnect and talk, because we are all here for the first time. Normally, everybody just have its own activity, but we are here, so we need to talk. There's no, we're completely disconnected, even if we are together. So it made really a lot of things worse.
Yeah, no, I agree that it was such a fast shift that none of us really had time to figure out what it meant. Faust, one of the things I've heard from leaders is, now that we're moving out of the pandemic, can we bring everybody back into the office? Because, we need to see each other, and that's where we are stimulated and we get our real creativity. And I kind of feel some kind of way about that, right? I got two feelings about that. One of them is, okay, I get it, that it's good to be physically near people and be able to leverage each other's energy and passion. But I also wonder, isn't there something that you can still do, even in the virtual setting, to keep engagement high and to stay connected with your people, given the range of technology that we have access to? So I don't know, Faust, what say you?
Rhonda, technology is here to stay. And Roz made the right comment. Either it's going to use us or we're going to use it. We have a tendency to like our comfort zones and to be as much on autopilot as we can. So we let it run us. What I'm seeing now, and it's scary, because a lot of people are going to go remote and stay remote. It's less expensive. They're saying it benefits the employee, but I really don't think it does, because it brings that isolation factor back into it again. The other interesting thing is that most good businesses have an HR department where employees can go if they have problems, and that HR department and upper management can monitor people who are having problems. We're not going to see those people anymore. They're going to be at home. No one's going to communicate with those people. They're going to look. They're going to sign in the morning. They're going to look to see that their work is done. They'll have a meeting every so often to determine if some things about work have to be done. But no one is going to say, "How are you doing today?" Throughout this, I chose to counsel in my office. I'm fortunate. I have a very large office, so I can maintain distances even without masks. And I saw all my people, but I watch a lot of people doing what I do for a living, which is to counsel people, and they're doing it from computers. And I say, well, you're not seeing them. You're not seeing the whole body. So there's no body language there. There's this remote thing. Sometimes they're distracted. They're hearing sounds from up elsewhere in the house. They're on their keyboard. Some people are counting with a phone in their hands. We're doing all those kinds of things. Yeah. If we're going to, we're only going to be as strong in this coming out of this pandemic as we choose to be. We've got to go to this with our strengths and stop relying on these other things to make our life easy. We have a job to do. We have to move forward on this. We're going to have to get going with it.
Yeah. Wow. There's definitely a lot there to unpack. And I want to tune into something that you said, because you said that when we were in the office, we would see each other and we could have general conversations and we could say, "How are you?" Now we're just looking to make sure that the work is getting done, but nobody is saying, "How are you doing?" Right? How's your family? Is everything okay? Right? So are we really taking the time to connect with people on that human level, or have we completely lost all of that and we are just focused on the task because we are in this sort of disconnected state? So I want to say, Roz, as we think about this, and then I'm going to bring a comment up from Michael as after you answer this, Roz, how do we maintain that connection as leaders with people, just from the human perspective? You've got a team, Roz, and your team is not all in one place, right? Because you all travel to take care of your people. How do you maintain connectedness with your people on a human level?
Well, first of all, I have to call them. I put in place supervisors. And so the part that I can't do, then I have the supervisor say, hey, can you go down the hallway and physically check on this person for me? Because there's some things now as a boss that I'm not able to do as often. Now I do try to go in at least once a month and check on them and call them on the phone. But that weekly contact, I have the supervisors. Also, too, one of my employees I did have working remotely, but now I know I have to phase her in slowly. I know I can't give her 5 days a week right now. I don't think that's going to be good for her because she's been away from the office, or been away from people for so long. I'm
Right.
gonna have to phase her in, 1 day a week, 2 days a week. And I think that's what leaders and employees are going to have to look at. Yeah, you want everybody to come back, but if they all come back at one time, what is going to be some possible problems we may have? Because we don't know what they're bringing from the house, what kind of baggage. We don't know what kind of problems or issues. So we may have to phase people in.
Mhm.
Work in the office one day, work at home for 3 or 4 days. For another month, come in for 3 days, work. Until we can get the people back to some type of normalcy. Because if you've been home all this time, and then they have to deal with driving to work, traffic, driving home, trying to fix lunch, getting clothes ready to where you've been sitting in your drawers, for a year. I'm just talking. So now you got to get back into a routine that you didn't have to worry about. These different type of things. So for me, I'm phasing my person in right now 1 day a week, and then I'll phase them in maybe 2 or 3 days a week until they're fully back in the office. 5 days a week.
Mhm.
So that's my take on it.
Yeah. Roz, what I'm taking from that though is that you are using an individualized approach to respond in the way that your people need. And everybody doesn't need the same thing. Right. Some
Exactly.
people are going stir crazy at home and they're like,
Hmm.
just let me out of here, get me back in the office. That's a different person than the one who has been really comfortable with in a skivvies right from the waist down, because thank goodness Zoom doesn't capture the bottom half. I think we'd all be kind of in trouble. I think we'd all be in trouble in that case. So thank you for that, Roz. So Mireille, I want you to respond to Michael's comment. Michael said, just like you used to walk down the hall or to the cooler to chat with employees about this topic, leaders need to talk to their employees every day for a short time to connect. Each team leader or director should be responsible for talking to the same 10 people every day. Oh, all right, Michael, you putting it out there for us and you challenging us as leaders. Mireille, what do you think about this?
I mean, it's a bit, it's a bit
Aspirational?
too structure operational, but I think there's some truth in it because you need to integrate it into your work. It's part of it's part of what you are assigned to do as a leader because you're leading people. You're not leading, you're not leading a chair or anything. So you have to make sure that you have a system in place. It doesn't have to be you walking and reaching out to 10 people, but you have to put a system in place where that's gonna help you to get this contact with your team, because otherwise it's going to affect the result of your work as well, because you need to have them on board. They need to be in line with what you're trying to achieve, your vision. They need to understand what you're trying to achieve. So you have to integrate it as a leader as part of that's part of one of your assignment, which is to lead your people and make sure that you engage with them regularly to understand if they're okay and if they're really following on the vision and on the mission that you're trying to put here.
Yeah, no, I agree that it's not cookie cutter, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've got to have some flexibility in that. So, Michael, thank you for that comment because it really is a challenge. And I would say, you say you must talk to the same 10 people every day. I say somehow you've got to connect with people every day. I don't know what that looks like, but you've got to figure it out as a leader what your team needs from you, and you've got to make sure you're dealing with that on a human level. So, Faust, Nima says one of the things we've always done at my place of employment is practice the sanctuary model and trauma informed care. So our meetings consist of how are you? What is your goal for today? Do you need help? And if so, who can you turn to for help? Nima, I love that. What a great model and what a great way to connect with humans and while you're doing the work. So yeah, you've got 40 minutes of your agenda or whatever. If you've got a 60-minute meeting, 40 minutes of your agenda focused on the task and the work that has to be done, but then 10 to 20 minutes of it focused on people. Faust, have you used that model or have you seen leaders using something similar?
We use models very similar to that, Rhonda. What I'm finding and what I've always found is that people are trying to, again, be efficient and go right to the profit motive. And they're unwilling to spend that 10 minutes or that 15 minutes. And what I've always told employers and upper management is you are going to pay that time. You're going to invest that time. Decide whether you want to invest it in a proactive way and really have your morale up and your people efficient and feeling good about themselves, or decide whether you want to invest that after the fact and now you're in a fixed mode. But you're going to pay one way or another, and it's a whole lot cheaper in the beginning. Plus your morale is up, and people feel good about what you're doing. What I'm finding now is after the pandemic that everyone got used to not communicating. And even on my level, when I say to them, okay, I need to come into the business for a meeting, some of them are saying, well, can't we do it remote? And I said, wait a minute, if you're not willing to hit this thing head on, how do you think your employees are going to be? Even if they want to, they're going to assume that you have no interest in them. So and I can be a little pushy at times. I said, so I'm on my way. So open the door, and then it's funny, after we had those meetings, they said, we missed this. We forgot all about it. We really thought we could do it the other way. But now, here we are in this, and the first, I was there about an hour and a half. The first 20 minutes, 30 minutes was about this, setting this back up and getting back to a personal mode. They thought that investment in time was great. I said, great. Just what we were saying before, invest that time routinely. You don't have to go fix things later.
No,
And
it's important, Mireille.
And I support that because I still remember that was 10 years ago. I was working for a company, and things were not working very well with the manager. And we always asked him to have this time with each one of us, and he never had time. And one day, in 1 week, everybody resigned, and he was just asking himself, but what's going on? Oh, my team, they're all resigning. Yes, we keep asking you to have this time to really, talk to us, and because there's obviously something wrong, but you refuse. You just, looking at the productivity, but then you have no productive people now. You have, and you're gonna lose money. So it's really important to have this time with the people that you're leading.
Yeah, that goes back to what Michael is saying. That daily interaction with the few will allow you to ask the personal welfare questions that are needed. And he says, welcome to the world of leadership. Absolutely. So, all right, Maria has a big one for us. Maria, all right, I have worked with a few companies during the pandemic in which they opted to open a new position for when the return to work occurs to talk to the employees and how they were doing. And it was very welcome. For me personally, I've always had my business remote, so I don't see how some folks felt lost through this. And they seem to have welcomed this new adventure in their company. I will say many people now prefer being remote with occasional in office. And you have to wonder if there's some benefit to having a hybrid model. And again, I think it's not cookie cutter. Everyone needs something different, right? Everyone is inspired differently and motivated differently. Can we do some things hybrid? I don't know. I think that just the business has to decide where they are. But false, I experienced something similar when I recently went and did a workshop with an organization. It was the first time they had gathered in a year. Was the first time this leadership team had gathered in person in a year. Here's what we found. First of all, they were all like, hey, great to see you in person, right? Because of course, Zoom and all of that was happening. But what we also found was that a lot of people didn't know each other. There were a lot of new team members, new managers. They didn't know each other, had never seen each other before. And so it was very interesting when we started the meeting the way we normally did. And someone said, maybe we should just take a minute to introduce everyone because we don't all know each other anymore. Right. So there's a lot of things that happened during the course of this pandemic and getting disconnected. But I want to ask specifically now, I want us to talk about the leader. Because I do think that the engagement on your team has a lot to do with how that leader is creating engagement, is driving engagement. Years ago, we decided and we began to understand that employee satisfaction wasn't the term. It was employee engagement. And the reason is because they say satisfaction is just about, yeah, I'm feeling okay. I'm doing all right. But engagement is your willingness to give, to really go above and beyond, and to really invest yourself, even when you don't have to, right? For instance, do I have to turn on my Zoom camera when I get on a virtual meeting? If you're on the meeting with me, the answer is yes, because I don't like talking to a black box, right? And I've had this conversation with some leaders, but you've got to be really clear about that. So here, I'm going to share another quote with you all that I found. And then what I want you to talk to me about is the role of the leader and what they can do, because maybe it's the leader that's disengaged, right? What happens if it's the leader that's disengaged and they are causing all of this disengagement in the team? So here is the quote. We are dangerous when we are not conscious of our responsibility for how we behave, feel, and think. Right? I think this is particularly important to our discussion because when a leader is disengaged and all of a sudden you have all of these team members who are disengaged and no one then now we're stuck and we don't know what to do. So what happens when it's the leader that's disengaged? So my question for all of you is, how does a leader know that they are the one that's disengaged, i.e. you are the problem, right? Roz, how does the leader know that they are the problem?
Your employees tell you. I'm sorry, they do. And look, I have to put my hand up and say I'm guilty because my employees came to me and said, hey, we haven't seen you. When are you going to come see us? And I wanted to tell them, I don't feel like it, but I couldn't. I'm the leader. There are days like everybody else that I don't want to do any human contact. But because I'm the leader, those days have to be slim and next to none because I have people that I'm taking care of. Yeah, there's self-care days when I'm going to take care of myself. Don't get me wrong now. But, when an employee brings it to my attention, then I need to look at myself. Rosalind, where in your schedule did you miss it? What didn't you do? And and I tell my employees, I don't do it right, but I can't get it right if you don't talk to me. So right. I have that open door policy to say, hey, let me know if I hadn't seen you in such and such time so I can come out.
Yeah, Roz, that is it. They will tell you. The question is, do we listen? Right? Because they don't always just tell you straight out. Sometimes they tell you in their actions and what they do or don't do. Right? So that's really important. So the question
but
is,
you know what, though? I want to say that too. I had one employee who wasn't showing up for work on purpose because she was trying to get my attention. I was getting ready to fire her. because she was showing up later when she was calling out, and then she said, well, I wanted to talk to you, and I'm not gonna say what I said because my I said, well, basically I said, well, hell, why didn't you just say something? You didn't have to go
Right.
through, because when you stop coming to work, it impacts everybody. It impacts the client, your coworkers, me. All you had to say was, hey, I just need to talk to you. We
Yeah.
could, we could have saved a whole lot of time, and you wouldn't be on probation right now because of a bad decision.
Yeah. It's interesting. And so let's keep talking about this. But first, I saw a couple comments come through. So Michael said, suggest to the employees working at home, if they do not perform well, they have to come into the office daily. If they perform well, they can stay at home and work if they want to. So again, each organization, right, really looking at their team, deciding what's necessary versus what's not, and then making those decisions. Regina says many leaders may have a workplace meeting in the morning or evening to talk, laugh, and smile again. Also, let people know that help is there if they need it. And that's really important too, right? People have to know that help is there. So, Mireille, how do leaders know that they're the problem? Like, what gives them that clue?
I mean, it's not easy, and we talked about listening. It's important to listen, and to listening doesn't just mean listening to what they say. Sometimes it's just the body language. Sometimes it's just the attitude. Like Rose was saying, she was this lady was trying to get the attention from her. So really have this. Understand the communication in a way, because communication is not just about talking. It integrate a lot of other things. So have, as a leader, really get to understand and make the effort to understand how you come across, when you communicate with your team, and also be self-aware, of the environment and how people behave. And I think that's an important step for a leader. And ask, you can create a setting where, you ask for feedback. And I think that's something that a lot of leaders don't do anymore, because some of them don't actually know their responsibility, but that's part of the job. Get the feedback, understand what your team think about you. I've seen a lot of company do the Friday afternoon, which is more of the very relaxed. You go for teamwork and get this feedback to help them to condition everybody and to understand what's wrong and how they come across. So this work hard, play hard type of platform to get this feedback in a different setting, because sometimes the office can freeze you. So they
Right.
create this setting so that they feel more, the fear is not there, and they can talk and give this feedback. So
Yeah.
that's one thing that I've seen working really well.
I love that work hard, play hard setting. But it's scary, like you said, Murray. So a lot of leaders won't ask the question because they're afraid of the answers, right? If you ask people what they think of you, they will likely tell you. So if you ask that question, you must be prepared for the answer.
Yeah.
Michael says, look over your shoulder. If no one is following, then you are not a leader. So so Michael, you're just calling us out today. So Maria says she's asking, when you had that conversation with your employee, Roz, was it in typical Roz form? We're gonna let you answer that one, Maria. I know you know the answer to that.
Yeah, she does. She knows the answer.
And Maria says exactly what Michael said. So, so Foss, as we think about leaders, what can they do? Because I do believe that sometimes they are not aware. That I think they are not aware that they are the problem. It is a them problem. It is not a me problem. So if you fix those people out there, fix them, then life will be better, right? So, Faust, how does a leader begin to reshift and look in the mirror and point at themselves first?
You know, when you talk about leaders, one of the, you look at what attributes go with leader. We talk about strength and we talk about the ability to lead people and implement programs. But unfortunately, one of the things that goes with leading often is arrogance. And it doesn't have to be in your face arrogance. Sometimes it's a subtle arrogance, which is I'm kind of above the crowd. And what I always talk about my leaders about, what I use is the humility component. I'm going to assume that I don't know. And I'm going to put people in a position to bring information to me. A good leader does that. A leader does not mean I'm top dog. It's not about what I get. It's the responsibility that I've taken on. That's really what leading is. And our perspective about that has always been just a bit off. I'm the top guy. You do things my way. I implement this program, and then all middle management and whomever you go do all those things. My job, it's just like in anything else. If I decide to become a parent, it's not that I'm the boss of the house. I'm the guy that has to be sensitive enough to know where everybody is so I can help those people. The work relationship is no different. If I use some humility, if I decide that there's a good chance I don't know, and I probably don't. If I have a company with even 100 employees, I know what all 100 employees are doing? Of course not. So I assume I don't know, rather than I do know. I assume I don't. I keep getting information from them. And then when I get it, I will know. I'll know how to lead, and their needs will be met, at least better than they are now.
Wow, that's really powerful. Setting up systems and structures for people to constantly bring you information, to not be afraid just because you're the leader. How many organizations out there discourage you from talking to the top leader in the organization? Right? Because you are violating chain of command and it should go through me, and that's not right. I was listening. I wish I could remember which organization it was. It was a pretty big company that implemented, the CEO implemented something where he said, if there's ever any problem, here's my email address, call me or send me an email and let me know, keep me informed. And this was to anyone in the organization. They all had his email address to let him know. And he wanted to know. He said, I expect to know. What that ended up doing is it caused all of the leaders under him to be doing that same thing, to say, hey, if there's any challenge or whatever, I want to know right away. I want to know how I can help, how I can support. And what happened was initially they didn't trust those leaders that they would fix it. So they were going to the big guy. But when the leaders start reaching out and saying, let me know, I'm here to help, I want to fix it. Because of course they didn't want it to get to their boss, right? They didn't want it going up that high. Then all of a sudden the team started saying, no, I'll just send this to my boss. I know he'll take care of it. Right? So it created this shifting dynamic, which I think is really interesting for us. So we're going to get ready to do a couple of things, but Maria's got another one for us. She said, I'm going to sort of summarize a bit. Effective communication is crucial. You've got to get them to feel comfortable coming to you. To influence and inspire a team, you need to practice empathy and transparency and understand how others perceive you. So you're talking all emotional intelligence here. Sometimes leaders are in the position of being a leader, but they are not equipped with the skills. Oh my goodness, Maria, that's like a whole nother show. That's a whole show because it is my pet peeve that leaders don't always have the skills to lead. They simply don't have the skills to lead, at least effectively. And so Regina said, feedback is great. Get the feedback from your teams or employers. The isolation is a concern long-term. So leaders will constantly need to have in-person conversations. Yeah, we've got to talk to people. We simply have to do that because it's, that is how that's how you build trust, right? So what I want to do now is it's 10:50. We're going to start getting ready to do our wrap-up segment where I really want to go around and I want to talk about what can we do to reduce the state of disconnectedness, right? How do we help leaders what strategies can they use to really engage and connect more with their teams so that they can be more effective? Before we do that, let's do our little shot here with the coffee. So hold up your cup. All right, got it. Thank you. And so let's then talk about what can leaders do. And we will do that on the other side because, we got to do our little fancy doodad. So we're getting ready to go into the what's in your cup segment, where we're going to share basically from this discussion, metaphorically speaking, what are we taking away? What have we put in our cups that we want to share with others? Well, all right, so let's start our segment. The idea is we're going to share our takeaways. What did you glean from this conversation that you want to share with others? Or it could be something new. Maybe you didn't get to state it on the show so far, something that leaders could do to become more connected with their teams. Because as we said, $450 billion a year. Mm-hmm. Disengaged teams cost $450 billion a year to organizations. That's no small feat there. So we're going to start with our co-host. Faust will come to you last. And as we come to you, we also want you to share how others can connect with you. And if they want to learn more about the work you're doing with the Fix Yourself Handbook. So Roz, let's start with you. What are you taking away in the What's in Your Cup segment?
I was thinking about what Faust said earlier. As leaders, we have to come off of the ivory tower. Sometimes we get these positions and, we get the big head, and we have to realize that we're still human and that the people that we're dealing with are humans. So, and then also too, as leaders, we have to pick the right leaders. Everybody is not meant to lead. Some people are meant to manage and to supervise. So that's what I picked up from our great guest. And I'm done speaking.
Thank you, Roz. Everyone is not meant to lead. And wow, that's tough. And it's probably tough for some leaders to hear that. And if you feel like you're in that bucket, there's lots you can do, right? You can go and pursue some education and learning and development and sharpening your own tool set and skill set, and not waiting for someone else to do that for you. Mireille, what are you taking away today?
For me, it's more about being proactive as a leader and really understand that engagement is part of the job as a leader. And so really have leaders to understand that it's their responsibility, and they have to take, they have to go toward the people that they lead and try to understand, the dynamic and the right communication that they need to have with their, the followers, if I can express myself that way. And I think it's more about looking at it as, your problem as a leader more than anybody else's problem. And that's how, you get the benefit, the feedback that we are talking about. And you basically get, the right leadership to your team.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Mireille. It's so interesting that one of the things I hear from what you're saying is that it's really the responsibility of the leader to own this, to initiate it. They have to go to the people. They don't have to come to you, right? You're the leader. You've got to go to them. So if your only engagement is when you make them schedule an appointment and come to your office, that's a little challenging, right? That can be a little intimidating. Who wants to do that? But going out there, meeting them where they are is a different opportunity. Thank you, Mireille. Faust, what about you? What are some of the last takeaways that you want to share? I know this is your area of expertise, and so you do a lot of work here. So you can share with us anything you'd like us to take away.
Rhonda, I operate in business the way I operate in my personal life. If I'm going to lead, I have to make sure that I'm okay to lead. So that, this whole business thing we're talking about is this two-step process. You have a leader, that person is going to lead other people. So we've got to know that the leader's okay. And if you look, this again, you'll talk about a topic for another day. But if we did a show on toxic, dysfunctional leaders and what's going on in their lives, you'd be surprised behind the scenes what these people are dealing with. Because the higher you aspire and the higher you go, the more complicated life becomes. And then you find the financial problems and the affairs and the marriages that aren't going well. And that's the leader that comes to work. So we want to make sure the leader is okay first. Then we want to engage with the employees. But if the leader is a toxic person, is a person who is depressed or anxiety ridden or drinking too much because they medicate, so they don't go to the corner bar, they drink the $300 bottle of scotch. It doesn't make it. There's no difference. We have to make sure the leader is okay, so the leader can then move into the employees. And you're right, get into where the employees are. That's what I do, and I don't just go meet with leaders. I have one corporation. It's a worldwide foundry. It's iron workers. I go in the foundry. I talk to these people, while they're on melt decks, and because I see these guys, I see the machines they're working at. I see how they work. I see how they operate with each other. A leader's got to be able to do that, or you are not ever going to get the information you need. But if you're not okay, you're going to avoid that situation because it'll be just one more thing you have to add to your day. So a two-step process. Make sure I'm okay, and then I go make sure my people are okay.
That's great. I love that. And Faust, if people want to learn more about the Fix Yourself Handbook or any of the work you're doing, how can they reach you?
They can reach me. The best way is my website. It's my name, faustruggiero.com. I dedicate that book to the website to the book. Everything you want to know about me or the book or how I work is there. There's a contact page. Please feel free to contact me. Ask any question you want. If we need to connect, I'm always open to do that.
Awesome. Thank you. We've got a couple of final comments here. So Regina said, hashtag the fake open door policy, LOL. And then let's see. And then Michael said, treat the workers the same way they want to be treated. The leaders want to be connected, and so do the workers. Oh, part 2, you guys. This is another show that we need a part 2, because it is that so many times. And you just referenced this, Faust. Sometimes we think that what the leader needs is so different than what the team needs. It's actually really not, right? Everyone is really needing pretty much the same things. And so it's interesting to see how we actually execute that in organizations. Cindy says, love that intro to what's in your cup. My takeaway is what I started with, communication. Most people I ask say they left work because of their supervisors. It's a tough fact. People don't want to recognize and acknowledge that when your team is leaving, they're often leaving because of you. And even though that's hard, if we can look at it, then we have a huge opportunity in front of us to fix it. Regina said, I agree with Mother. It comes down to communication. I would also add in person, making it a point to ask questions in the workplace. Leaders need to pay attention to nonverbals and body language. Yeah, and you simply don't get all of that the same way. So it's been another great hour. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Thank you all so much for the comments. I love the comments. They're such a great part of our show and an important part of our show. Faust, thank you so much for being here. You were an amazing, amazing guest.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
Absolutely. So, of course, my 2 caffeinated co-hosts that are awesome and wonderful and amazing. Thank you all so much. For all of my panel, stay tuned. For everyone else out there, we appreciate you being able to spend some time with us. We want to learn together, grow together. I learn something on this show every single week, and we appreciate you allowing us to spend a little bit of time with you as we learn to lead above the grind. We'll see you back here next Saturday, same time, same station. Until next week, everybody. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching the Coffee with Rhonda show. You can catch live episodes Saturdays, 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern. And if you are curious about leadership above the grind, you can download your copy of the Stress Free Leader ebook at stressfree